Like many people, I love college sports. I'm a huge fan of almost all of them. My two favorite being football and basketball. I'm a big fan of the Arkansas Razorbacks, even though they most of the time tend to let me down. Um, there it's very exciting. You don't have to worry about kids not wanting to play because they're not getting paid enough or anything like that. All these kids are hoping to go pro, so they're gonna play their best, and it's usually very exciting. For those of you who may not know, the NCAA stands for National Collegiate Athletic Association, and for the most part, there's a pretty big deal made about whether or not kids should get paid to play or if they shouldn't get paid. I'm going to explain to you why I feel like they shouldn't get paid. So, the NCAA brings in a ton of money for all these schools. In 2003, they brought in $4 billion, and in 2017, they brought in $14.1 billion. So I get it. There's more than enough money that goes around that they could pay the players. Football and basketball dominate the industry, and just 3% of schools make up 54% of all that money that came in. Um, According to Chris Murphy from the article of How Everyone Gets Rich Except for the Students. A job is a paid position of regular employment. You go to work, they pay you for it. An extracurricular activity is an activity performed by students that is not part of their normal curriculum. Volunteering, being part of the newspaper, and sports, being part of a sports team. According to the NCAA, over 460,000 student athletes, most of which do not go pro. They end up going pro in something other than a sport. So that being said, student athletes aren't there. That's not their job. Their sport, whether it's baseball, football, basketball. That's not. They shouldn't get paid for that because first and foremost, yeah, you're a student. Even if you're there on a athletic scholarship, student comes first. If you're lucky enough to be drafted into a professional sport organization, then you make the transition from an extracurricular activity to a job. As I said before, as of 2017, $14.1 billion was made. That's a lot of money, and I understand big colleges, rake in millions and billions of dollars off of their sport organizations, and some of these big schools they have star athletes, people you go to see, show out. They're the most exciting person on the team. A good example of this is Ohio State University. Ezekiel Elliott, I'm sorry, Ezekiel Elliott was running back for Ohio State about 3 years ago, and he was definitely exciting to watch. Every time he got the ball, it almost ended up. If it wasn't a touchdown, it was a really nice game. And the big argument with this is, if he wasn't there, would people still show up to watch the game? Yes, people would definitely still show up. I mean, of course you go, in hopes to watch someone like Elliott play. They're what brings in the excitement. But the brand value is Ohio State football. They've been a football organization over 100 years, and from the looks of it, they're going to continue being a football organization. And any school that has a sports team, with or with not, I'm sorry, with or without your star player, they're gonna continue making money. They're gonna continue bringing in all these fans, filling their 100,000 stadiums up. It's gonna be like nothing changes. So yes, I get, they make all this money, but as I see it, really at the end of the day, they're students. Even if, like I said, they're student athletes. I get it. Even if they're there on a athletic scholarship, student comes first. You're there for an education. At this point in their life, the sport they're playing is just it's it's just like a hobby. It's something they're doing extra, and they're hoping to make a job out of it later. Even though I love watching sports, and every Saturday I try to watch my team play, I don't think they need to be paid. But if it ever was decided that they did, if the committee of the NCAA ever decided to make them allowed to be paid, I hope they would do it in a matter of, like, they're not allowed to touch it until they graduate. Even if they go pro, if they go pro, they don't need that money. They shouldn't get paid that much anyway because they're students and they're there for an education. They should not be allowed to touch the money until they get their degree. According to the NCAA, less than 2% of all student athletes end up going pro. In reality, um, most student athletes depend on academics to prepare themselves for life after college. The NCAA knows that education is very important, and it's not that they don't it's not that they don't want them to succeed, but they're trying to make it a reality, to know, for them to understand, it may not work, and you need a form of education. Education is very important, and you need to be able to fall back on something if the students who play these sports, if it doesn't work out. Um, so even if you're on student, even if you're a student athlete, and even if you're the star player, you feel like you bring in all the fans, you do the best you can. I don't think they should be paid, not until they can turn extra their extracurricular activity into an actual job. Because at the end of the day, they're they're playing a sport, but they're playing it for a school team, and you don't go to school to get paid. You go to learn a skill to get a job afterwards. Thank you.